Dating apps. For the last 10 years, they've clearly been the number one way to find relationships. But now, things are starting to fall apart. Because of one thing. Dating app burnout. The majority of Gen Z and millennials have experienced this, which is why they're leaving in massive numbers. This is shaking up the dating app industry. They're losing value, users, and trust, leaving their CEOs searching for answers. So, is this the end? How did this happen? And is there something new on the horizon? Come with me on a journey to find these answers with help from those who know it best.
Wait a minute! So funky!
Oh, okay. Da ist es. So, these are my grandparents. They first met in kindergarten in 1934. It all clicked when they joined couples dance classes as teenagers. From that moment on, they stayed together until the very end. Yup. Stories like theirs were once the norm, so times have changed. Back then, people dated within their community and got to know each other face to face. And usually, they just lived nearby. However, in the 90s, things began to change with the rise of the internet.
We are calling it iPhone.
And as the smartphone era began, dating apps were soon introduced to us, providing us with endless choices.
You ran out of lights.
It all led to online dating becoming the clear frontrunner in how we meet today. Okay, now it's 2025, things seem to have drastically changed, and one recent statistic gives proof to that. Imagine these 10 balloons stand for 100% of the people who used dating apps in the last year. While the average user spends 50 minutes of their day on these apps, about 80% suffered from dating app burnout. To understand how we got here and what it all means, I turn to someone who knows this stuff inside and out. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, how about you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
This is Dr. Marisa Cohen, a relationship scientist and professor from New York City. Since she has worked with several dating apps, I asked her to explain to me what dating app burnout really is.
Dating app burnout is really just the disillusionment with the dating app process. And it can either be with using the apps themselves or even going on dates as a result of the connections that they make on the apps. And it typically just leads to disengagement with the apps at a certain point where people just either don't want to go on the dates or just don't even want to log on to the apps at all.
But how did we get to this point? According to Marisa, there are two sides we need to look at. The first is the apps themselves.
The apps are gamified. Like, there is a motivation to stay on the apps despite what some of the taglines will tell you. You know, people get rewarded for being on the apps. It's also like a little bit of a dopamine hit to stay on these apps and get responses from people that you're matching with. Over time, people are spending a lot of energy on these apps, and it's just, they'll hit a wall where they feel like, okay, like I need, like with anything, just like doom scrolling and stuff, where it's just like, I need to divert my energy elsewhere.
On the other side, we need to take a brief detour to look at the user.
The way to maximize freedom is to maximize choice. The more choice people have, the more freedom they have, and the more freedom they have, the more welfare they have.
This is Dr. Barry Schwartz, a psychologist, speaker, and best-selling author. But listen, he's well known for a concept he introduced to the world in 2004 called the paradox of choice. To illustrate this, I'll refer to a famous study I got from Dr. Schwartz's book.
Schwartz, not Schwartz.
In this study, researchers set up a table in a supermarket giving out free samples of jam. One day, customers could choose from 24 flavors, and on another day, only 6 flavors of jam.
The choice is yours.
When faced with 24 flavors, only 3% made a purchase. But with just 6 options, 30% of the customers chose to buy jam, so 10 times more. Alright, let's put this in perspective. Here we've got the number of choices, and over here the quality of personal experience. This is how choices and experience are connected. Of course, on one hand, too few choices are problematic. On the other hand, too many choices can overwhelm us, making decisions harder and less satisfying. But there's a sweet spot right here. This is where we feel the most comfortable. Now apply this idea to dating apps. To understand this even better, I actually spoke with Barry during my vacation. I've also bought 30 glasses of jam just to demonstrate it. In his book, Barry discusses 2 types of decision makers, which can help us understand how users interact with dating apps. They are called maximizers and satisficers.
A maximizer is seeking the best. And this seems to be the unofficial ideology of rich democratic societies. Only the best will do. You should never settle. A satisficer is not looking for the best. A satisficer is looking for good enough. We have different standards in different areas of our life, but the critical thing is that if that's what you're looking for, you don't need to examine all the options. You just look at options until you find one that meets your standards, and then you stop looking. And what we have found is that this maximizing orientation, which, as I say, is what we're encouraged to have, is really bad for people's mental health. You know, they can't decide. They do decide, and they're convinced they made a mistake.
We lose our hearts to others.
They second guess themselves all the time. So they may do better, but they feel worse about how they've done. It's a hard lesson to teach because, as I say, the world is trying to teach us exactly the opposite lesson.
But even beyond the challenge of endless choices, men and women face very different experiences when it comes to online dating. Let's break this down real quick. Shall we?
Do it.
What we often assume is that women and men are equally represented on these apps. In reality, however, you'll find significantly more men. Tinder, for example, has a ratio of 3:1. Additionally, how we interact is also different. The average woman likes only 14% of all men, while the average man likes 46% of all women. This imbalance leaves women feeling burnt out from too much attention and bad interactions, while men feel burnt out from facing constant rejection. So what now? Where is all of this taking us?
It seems finding a date in person is becoming trendy again, with share prices in dating apps now declining.
Speed dating and social clubs, they are regaining popularity.
So now there are singles meetups, there are speed dating events. That sounds old school, but it is happening. And
this is a new spin on running clubs.
It's taken the club from 5 members to more than 6,000 in less than 2 years.
Social events and clubs are popping up all over the world, offering a new way for people to connect. This is a real thing, and you can see it happening in cities everywhere. After all, maybe the old-fashioned way is still the best. But what does this mean for the future of dating apps? I asked Marisa.
I think that it's not going to stop dating apps from existing. They are a great way to connect with people that you otherwise would not meet in your everyday life. Our schedules don't always necessarily align to be able to do things like a run club or, meet people in a bar. Just because you're out there in real life doesn't preclude you from still kind of going back to the comfort of the app. So I think that it's nice to have both as an option, and in a way that may also prevent dating app burnout because you can kind of switch between the two, meaning the apps and in real life events.